Saturday people, how are you doing? And welcome back to a new video. So with the January transfer window fast approaching us, I thought we could look back at Charlton's latest 50 signings and rank them on a tier list from best to worst. This is going to be an interesting one. It's going to cause a lot of controversy. There's going to be a lot of opinions flying about the place. But just before we get into this video, I'd just like to point out I have not included this season's transfers in this tier list. I'm looking back at the 50 signings before this season. So I think it ranges from 2016-17 until last season. So I've not included this year, and that's because I'll be doing a lot more tier lists with these players, with the players from this season in the future. So for this tier list, we have 6 categories. The categories are what a steal, good signing, done all right, average, pretty bad, and absolute clanger. So without any further hesitation, let's get into the video. So as ever with these tier lists on this channel, we are going to be going through the players in alphabetical order, and we are starting off with left back Aidan Chickson. Now Chickson of course came over to the club in 2016-17. It may well be an unpopular opinion. I actually liked Chickson when he played for us. It was quite a weird phase when we had Chickson at the football club, because obviously we were under Carl Robinson at the time, and Robinson was experimenting with a 4-3-3 and was using fullbacks as wingers. So you had Aidan Chickson, who's supposed to be playing left back, out on the left wing. But I felt Chickson was actually alright. I thought he was a good player. He had a player with a decent amount of pace. He had an eye for goal. He'd dart forward. And I felt he was a pretty decent player for us. It may well be unpopular, but yeah, I've put Aidan Chickson in done alright. I think he was an alright player for us. Next up we have Aidan Matthews, the Welsh right back, who of course is still at the club today. And I have to put him in the top category. He's going in what a steal. What an absolutely unbelievable steal from Sunderland. We got him on a free transfer last season, and honestly, he puts a 7 out of 10 performance every time he puts on that Charlton shirt. He's so good. He darts forward really well. He's a very good wing back. He's got an eye for a cross. He's got a decent long throw. Sunderland fans didn't rate him either. They were happy to see him go. But Matthews, what a steal he was from Sunderland on a free transfer. Brilliant bit of business from us. Quality player. However, there was one Sunderland player that we signed that didn't really work out, and that of course was the Irishman Aidan Mcgeady. I've put him in the average category. To be honest, I mean, we signed him when he was 34. He had a bit of a falling out, or a massive falling out in fact, with then Sunderland manager Phil Parkinson. When he came over to us, you could definitely tell that he'd sort of passed it now. Obviously, he was getting on a bit. His ability was sort of fading away, and to be honest, he wasn't all that. I could see glimpses of quality, especially during the behind closed doors period when Mcgeady got a lot of game time and he was getting on the ball, he was taking on players. The end product though just wasn't there for him, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll put him in the average category. I don't think he was really all that. And joining him in the average category, this one may be a controversial one, it is Andre Green, who of course came over to the club in the same January transfer window as Mcgeady, come over on loan from Aston Villa until the end of the season. In my opinion, it was between either done alright or average, and I've put him in the average category purely because he started off well. Obviously, he was a winger that was then brought in to play as a striker, like Jonathan Lecko was that season. Green come in to replace Lecko, and he started off well, scored 2 goals against Preston and Barnsley, and then after that he just sort of faded away. We didn't really use him during the behind closed doors period. I didn't think he was all that. He started off very well, and I thought he was going to prove a lot of people wrong because his goal record wasn't particularly good. But yeah, he started strong and then just sort of faded away for me. So Green goes in the average category, but that well could be up for debate in the comments. And another player going in the average category, and this again may be a controversial one because some people may think I'm being generous here. It is Andrew Crofts, the central midfielder who we signed from Gillingham. I think he played near enough every game during the 2016-17 season, but yeah, he definitely wasn't anything special. You could definitely tell that Charlton had gone through a decline when we just gone from the Championship to then signing Andrew Crofts, you know? Yeah, Crofts, yeah, he wasn't all that at all. And to be fair, looking back, I probably should put Crofts a bit lower than that, probably in pretty bad. Ben Amos, the shot stopper, he's had 2 different stints with the football club, of course, from Bolton on loan during 2017-18. He played every single game in that League One season. He was absolutely phenomenal, pulled off some unbelievable saves. Crisis hit at Bolton, and he found his way back at Charlton. Didn't play last season in the Championship, of course he was just mainly playing in cup games, but to be fair, pretty decent backup goalkeeper if I say so myself. And now of course this season, after Dylan Phillips' departure, Amos has become Charlton's #1 again, and you have to give Amos full credit, man. He's done so well this season. He was under a lot of criticism last season and at the start of this one, but Amos really has proved a lot of people wrong. He's going in good signing. Ben Purrington. moving on. Now we have a player that I actually think was criminally underrated when he played for the football club. Ben Reeves, the Northern Irish midfielder who of course came over to the club in the 2017-18 season. One of the players that was brought in by Carl Robinson. Of course, Robinson was the former MK Dons manager, and Reeves of course was playing at MK Dons, so Robinson brought him over to the Charlton side. A lot of people, including myself, when he first played for the club, didn't really rate Reeves. I didn't really see him as a player that had a lot of ability, but towards the back end of that season, I remember pointing it out to my dad and we were talking to each other about it. We sort of realised how underrated Reeves was because he put in a lot of work on that pitch that went unnoticed. He kind of reminded me of the midfield version of Kishishev back when we were in the Premier League. Kishishev, of course, did all the dirty work and it went unnoticed. Reeves was the same thing, but in the midfield for me. He had a really good left foot on him. He was not afraid to have a shot. He scored some absolute worldies. In particular, I remember that one against Barnsley away in 2018-19. Took a free kick, comes straight off the wall and it falls back to Reeves and he just smashes it on the volley. First time, absolutely unbelievable technique and a great strike. But yeah, Reeves for me, I put him in the done alright category. I don't think he was anything special. He wasn't like absolutely outstanding, but I do think he was underrated. Next up we have the Brighton and Hove Albion midfielder Byrne, who joined us from the Seagulls last season in what was supposed to be a season-long loan, but of course that loan was cut short due to him receiving an injury. He had to have surgery and we cancelled his loan. Kyle had a lot of hype about him. He was hyped up to be one of our more better signings during the transfer window, and he had a lot of technicality. Obviously very good player when he was at Brighton, but he just did not work out for us at all really. He's going in a pretty bad category. Didn't really like the look of him, to be honest. He did have a couple good performances, a couple of good glimpses of his quality, but overall he really was not all that for us and he was a massive flop, and considering the club we got him from, it really was a massive disappointment. Next up we have another player going in the average category, and that is Irish striker Billy Clark. Now of course we signed Clark during the 2017-18 season, I want to say, from Bradford City, who of course failed to get promoted via the playoff final, losing out to Millwall the season before. Clark of course come over to the club with not the best goal scoring record in the world, and to be fairly honest, when he did put on the Charlton shirt, he wasn't exactly incredible, was he? I think he only bagged the one goal against Oldham, and then he went and got a ACL injury against Blackburn later that season. It took him out until halfway through 2018-19, and Cullen Grant left to sign for Huddersfield, so we needed another striker, and at the time our striking options were Lyle Taylor, Igor Vetakele, Rico Hackett-Fairchild and Clark, who had just come back from injury. And to be honest, I actually felt that Clark should have got game time during that season, but of course, as we all know, we sold him on deadline day and brought in Josh Parker, and looking back at that, I think we all probably would have liked to have seen Clark stay rather than us buy Josh Parker, because when he did put on the Charlton shirt, let's be honest, he wasn't exactly amazing, was he? So he's going in the average category for me. So it was at this point in the tier list that I decided to make a new category down the middle, and it is simply called Didn't Play, because I realised in the 50 signings that we're going through in this video, there were some players that actually didn't make an appearance whatsoever, and I couldn't exactly whack them anywhere. And the first player going into this category is Chris Maxwell. It's pretty self-explanatory really. After Jed Steer was recalled during the 2018-19 season, we needed a backup goalkeeper. We sent Ashimeno Brewer out on loan to Chelmsford City, I believe, and we brought in Chris Maxwell on loan from Preston North End in the Championship. I was expecting him to rival Dylan Phillips, get a couple game time here and there. Didn't play a single minute during that season whatsoever. He literally was just a bench warmer. Next up we have the Impact substitute himself, Chuks Aneke. I was tossing and turving over this one, but I have put him in good signing. I put him in the second top category. Now, of course, we brought him in from the We brought him in during the Championship season from MK Dons, who had just gone up from League 2 at the time. He started off very well, of course, come off the bench and scored against Stoke City on his debut, and he was willing everything in the air. He was looking like a very good Impact player. And then he got absolutely ravaged of injuries. During the behind closed doors period, I think Aneke was our best striker. He come off the bench so many times and made countless amounts of impacts. And this is now a popular trend with Aneke. As we know, this season in League 1, he has scored 7 goals in all competitions, all of them off the bench. He is our top scorer in all competitions. Chuks Aneke, mate, he's absolutely turned his fortunes around this season. Chuks, for me, good signing, good signing. And now we have a player entering the What a Steal category, the Chelsea prodigy, Conor Gallagher. My God, what a talent. He's probably one of the best young talents Charlton fans have seen in recent years. Gallagher was absolutely incredible. And to think he'd never played a minute of senior football before we signed him. 5 goals and 4 assists, I think it was, during that time for the club in his first ever professional season, as Chelsea decided to recall him and send him to a club that would give him more competitive football. And of course he was sent out to Swansea, where he did achieve playoffs, so he did do very well there, but obviously it was a massive kick in the teeth for us to lose him, and he is now plying his trade in the Premier League, where he deserves to be, playing for a relegation-threatened West Bromwich Albion. He will go far. I expect him to be a regular in the Chelsea squad in a number of years. He will be an absolutely tip-top talent, future England player. Joining him in the what a steal category is Mr. Shithouse himself, Darren Bratley. This guy, when he came over to the club from Bolton in the League One, in our League One promotion winning season, a lot of people were laughing at us. Why have we signed Bratley? And he has proven doubters wrong. Man, what an unsung hero. He does the dirty work on that pitch. He gets stuck in the middle of that pitch. He ain't afraid to dart forward. He scored a couple goals for us. He is an absolute enforcer, a leader. Even to this day, I still think he's underrated by some of the Charlton fan base. He really is a good player. Great little signing from Bolton on a free transfer, man. What a player. From right at the top all the way down to the bottom, joining Ben Purrington in absolute clangor is David Davis. I think he could quite possibly be one of the worst signings we've ever seen. Probably the worst signing during the 2019-20 season. We all thought he was going to be an upgrade on Darren Bratley. He looked like an absolute beast in the middle of the pitch, and he was anything but that. He was very lucky not to be sent off in his debut against Stoke City, and he just looked completely out of his depth, man. His passing was absolutely horrific. He was just a shambles. It was just an absolute shambles. And to be totally honest, I don't even think he wanted to move to the club anyway. Next up, we have Preston North End goalkeeper Declan Rudd, who of course come over to the club during that 2016-17 season on a season-long loan. To be totally honest, it was part of a very bad Charlton side, let's be honest, during that year when we finished in 13th. But I actually rated Declan Rudd when he played for us, so I'm going to put him in the done alright category. Again, was tossing and turned between done alright and average, but I'm going to put him in done alright. Deji Oshilaja. Now, this one again was one I had to really debate with myself, and eventually I have put him in the pretty bad category, the second from bottom category. It was between that or average, and it's purely because of his championship performances last season. He started off very well when I defended Oshilaja. I thought he was pretty good at the start of the season. He went and got injured. He was absolutely shocking after that. He then slowly recovered his performances and he started to play well again, but then he just completely died off. We started playing him at left back for some really bizarre reason, and he was just not good enough whatsoever, and I genuinely wanted him gone. Started this season very well. He done very well indeed, and that's probably due to the fact that League One is his level, and then of course he went and got injured, had COVID symptoms, so had to self-isolate. It wasn't good enough for me, and I'm just going to put him in pretty bad. And joining him in the pretty bad category is another player that we signed during last season, and that is the Turkish Messi, Erhan Öztürk. The problem is though, he never really lived up to that nickname. He had one outstanding performance against Nottingham Forest, and since then he was just the definition of inconsistent. He just could not string a couple decent performances together at all during that season. I think he only got 1 assist during that entire year when he set up Lecko for that goal against Cardiff. He started a couple of games for us during this season, but of course, as we know, he has gone out on loan to fellow League One side Bristol Rovers. It was the right decision. He wasn't any good for us this season. I actually would have liked to have seen him get some minutes for us at League One level, but ultimately he just wasn't good enough for us, so I've got him in pretty bad. Frederick Ulverstad. Now, I don't really remember this guy, to be honest with you. He come over from Burnley during the 2016-17 season. Some of you may have other opinions if you've seen him play. Let me know in the comments below, but I've thrown him in the average category. I don't think he was all that. I think if he was good, I would have remembered him. So this one may well be up for debate as well, but going in the good signing category is Jake Forster Caskey. Now, we signed him from Brighton, I believe, during the January transfer window of 2016-17, and he was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal in his first season for the club, especially during that 2017-18 season. Was such an instrumental figure in the middle of that park alongside Ahmed Kashi. Such a good player, and then that all came crashing down with that ACL injury a season later under Lee Bowyer, and to be totally honest, I don't think he's been the same player since then. I hold that opinion. He's been playing quite regularly this year. I think he's done okay for this season as well. He's not been outstanding, but I think the player that we signed at the start of his career with Charlton, he was absolutely flawless, and he has put in some solid performances over the years. I was debating between either good signing or done alright. I've put him in good signing. I think he was a really good player for us when we initially signed him, and I think he still is a good player. He's got 2 goals for us this season. Jamie Ward, quite possibly the most average of all average players I've seen play for this football club. Come over from Nottingham Forest during the promotion winning season 2018-19, and yeah, he really was not anything special whatsoever. He was not special at all. He scored 1 good goal against Bristol Rovers when he lobbed the goalkeeper, but that was about it, to be honest with you. The skipper, Jason Pearce, I'm putting him in the good signing category. I think he has been a really solid leader in the backline for us for the most part anyway. Came over from Wigan during the 2016-17 season, been a regular in the team for a number of years. He has had his bad spells, in particular last season. I think he was so inconsistent during last season. He had a really good start, and then I think he got himself injured and he come back and he was an absolute vegetable. Looked like he was just completely out of his depth in the Championship. Piercy, for me, I think he's been a very good servant to the football club. He's been a really solid rock in the back line for us for the most part. As I say, very good leader, very good captain, and yeah, he's been a good signing for us. 2017-18 Player of the Year winner, Chelsea loanee Jed Steer, quite possibly the best left back we've had at the club for a number of years. I actually don't think we've had a solid left back until now with Ian Martson, of course another Chelsea product who has done very well for us this season. But yeah, left back really has been a poor position for us over the years since De Silva's left us. But yeah, De Silva of course come over to the club from Chelsea, a very unproven player. Not a lot of people really knew about him. He hadn't played all too much professional football when he come into the club, and he was absolutely fantastic. Gave us something different going forward. Of course, he was an attacking left back, got forward, really drove forward well. His dribbling ability was fantastic, and his eye for passing was absolutely superb as well, and deservedly so. Won Player of the Year during that year, and of course after leaving Chelsea he's gone to play for Bristol City. He's currently injured at the moment, just underwent surgery recently actually. Spoke about him earlier. Jed Steer, of course, come over from Aston Villa during the 2018-19 season. He only played for us from August to January, where he was recalled by Villa to help out with their keeper crisis they had over there, and he actually played a massive part in their side that ended up getting promoted. For Charlton, he was very up and down. He was very, very up and down. I remember at one point, I think in the space of 3 games, he conceded 9 goals. And as the season went on and as his time with the club progressed, Steer actually improved quite drastically, and he was a very good keeper towards the back end of that season. So for me, Steer, I'm going to put him in the done alright category. I think he was okay. Second player going in the didn't play category is Rangers loanee Joe Dodu, who of course come over during the 2017-18 season under Carl Robinson. I felt that he was going to be a decent option for us up front, a player with a lot of pace, scored on his debut against Oldham, and Robinson barely used him, which was quite surprising considering our attacking options were very much limited. Dodu didn't even get a run in, and I actually felt that if Dodu would have got game time, he would have been a pretty decent player. And joining Joe Dodu in the didn't play category is another Joe, and that is Joe Ledley, the Welsh midfielder who came over on a 1-month contract for last season. He played a whopping 45 minutes for the football club. Of course, come over to make up the numbers because of our completely injury-ravaged side. Bowyer decided it was a good idea to play him against Middlesbrough. I think 2 days after we'd signed him, he come off at half-time and we never saw him again. And now we have a player who Charlton missed a lot towards the back end of last season, but he was a player that frustrated me like you wouldn't believe, and that of course was Jonathan Lecko, who came over from West Bromwich Albion. As I mentioned earlier, he was primarily a winger that was utilised as a striker under Lee Bowyer in like a 4-4-2 diamond formation. Lecko started the season really, really well. He was an energetic player, constantly taking on players, had a lot of pace, had some good feet about him, and then towards the latter stages of his time at the club, he really was a frustrating player. He was consistently trying to take on players and it just wasn't working, but he still got goals for us. I think he got 5 or 4, I think it was 5 in the end for us, and he was a player that we did miss towards the back end of the season because he did receive an ACL injury against QPR away. We lacked a lot of pace in our side towards the end of that season, and Lecko was a player who could have provided that. But yeah, Lecko done alright. Johnny Esther, Johnny Williams. I absolutely love Johnny. You can't not love Johnny. He gives his heart and soul for this football club. He did lack quite a lot of end products. I don't actually think he got a goal or an assist during that season, but he definitely brought some energy when he come onto the pitch. Didn't really start all too many games. Was kind of like an impact player. The season later, of course, initially he was released by the club until he was eventually signed back on a 1-year deal. And again, he started the season really well indeed. I think he got like 5 assists or so. This season, he's finally starting to score goals, and I could not be happier for him. He's got 2 already this year against Portsmouth and scored at home against Wimbledon as well, and that really would have been a great moment to see. Just loves the club. Johnny just loves Charlton. He gives his heart and soul for this football club, and he really is a good player. So I'm putting him in good signing. Jordan Bataka, absolute clanger, absolute clanger. I think the only reason people rated him is because he had pace and 5-star skill moves on FIFA. So yeah, and he definitely did not show that whatsoever. He definitely had the skills, but he would just do an occasional step over and just wouldn't beat his man anyway. And I don't think a lot of the Charlton fan base really rated him. He was actually booed when he come off the bench against Rochdale during that season we had him. But yeah, he really was not anything special. Did not live up to the hype that FIFA gave him. And now we go on to probably one of, if not the best loan players we have had play for Charlton in recent years. I of course refer to Republic of Ireland international Josh Cullen. He was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. Such an influence in the middle of that pitch. Really gave his heart and soul for the football club. He showed passion, he showed desire. We weren't even his club. We were not even his club, and he gave absolutely everything for this football club. Hopefully, I still think one day there will be a time where Cullen will make his return to the club. Maybe he'll spend 1 season with Anderlecht under Vincent Kompany, and then if we get promoted to the Championship, he'll come back to us on a permanent basis. Josh McGuinness. I do not care how many goals McGuinness scored for us. I don't care that he was our top scorer during the 2017-18 season. He was bad. He was so bad. He's going in the pretty bad category. As I say, I don't care if he was our top scorer during that year. I really don't. He was shambolic. He was absolutely shambolic. But to be fair to him, he's starting to score a couple of goals now at Hull City at League One level this season in his own net. From one bad Josh to another one, Josh Parker. I don't really think I need to explain myself here. Absolute clanger. I know a lot of people liked him for his work rate, but me personally, he was a striker that was brought in to score goals, and he didn't score goals. So based off that alone, absolute clanger. Kevin Foley joined us in August 2016, left in January 2017. Based off that alone, I think he was pretty shocking, and I think a lot of Charlton fans can agree with me with that one. He too will be joining Josh Parker in absolute clanger. Finally, we have a positive in this video. Going in the What a Steal category, we have the Polish Wonderkid, Christian Belick. What a player. What a player. He played in that holding midfielder position in the diamond, and then when we were on the defensive, we sort of went to a back 5, and Belick would play in the centre-back position, and he played that position so well. He grabbed a couple of goals for us as well, 4 in total. Won man of the match in the playoff final against Sunderland. He really was incredible, and it was really disappointing to see him not come back during the Championship season, but at the end of the day, under Roland, we did not have £10 million to splash like Derby County did, and he is playing quite well for Derby at the moment. I mentioned him earlier. Leon Best rarely played for us, to be totally honest with you, and actually his footballing career was actually ended at his time with the club. He received quite a bad knee injury against Gillingham on my 17th birthday actually. Joining Leon Best in the didn't play category is Lewis Page. Now, this may sound weird because you guys will think Page played a couple of times for us. He played 27 games for the club over a 4-year period. He was a shard of glass. He was constantly getting injured. It was absolutely ridiculous how many times he was getting injured, and to be honest with you, because of the injuries, I can't really put him anywhere else, because I felt that had he not been injured so many times, he would have been a solid left back for us. And it's bloody typical that he's now gone to League 2, Exeter City, and he's playing very well there. I think he won their Player of the Month actually in September or October, I think it was. Lyle Judas Taylor. Let's just put him in the top category and move on. I can't really put him anywhere else, to be honest with you. 60 plus appearances, 36 odd goals. That is an absolutely astonishing record. Just move on, move on. Now, as you would have seen at the start of the video, the second category was called Good Business before I changed it to Good Signing. Now, I'm being totally honest. The only reason I had the second category as Good Business is because of this next player now. Macaulay Bonne. That was good business from the club. We bought him from Leyton Orient in non-league at the time for 200k. 15 months later, we turned him into a £2 million player, and I think that QPR were absolutely ripped off when they played that price tag, and QPR fans, I think they've started to slowly realise as the season's gone on that they think they've been ripped off. Getting him for 200k from Leyton Orient, he scored 11 goals in his first season in the Championship. He had to step up from non-league all the way to the Championship. To score 11 goals is impressive, but of course, he started a couple of games this season, but his head was turned by the QPR move, and he ended up going to QPR for 2 million. Next up, we have Mark Marshall, who joined the club from Bradford City in the 2017-18 season alongside Billy Clark. I'm putting him in the done alright category. I liked Marshall. I thought he was a decent player. He had a lot of pace. He had some trickery towards him. He scored a couple of goals. I think he done alright. I was tossing and turving between that and average, but I've put him in done alright. Matt Smith didn't play category. Come over from Manchester City on loan and didn't play. So yeah, he's going there. The Polish striker Michael Giro. I'm putting him in the average category. I did actually like Giro. Giro established a pretty good strike partnership with Nicky Ajose when Bowyer first took over as caretaker during that season. He bagged a couple of decent goals for us, but as the season progressed, Giro really was average. He really was average. He certainly died off, but I did like Giro. Joining Michael in the average category is Nathan Byrne, and he was one of the players under Carl Robinson who initially was a fullback who was utilised as a winger, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Absolutely no sense. He weren't anything special, to be honest with you. He weren't anything special. Nicky Ajose. Bad. The only thing that's saving Ajose from going in the absolute clanger category is because he made Fratton Park his playground. So yeah, that's the only reason he's going a category above, but bad. It's about time we had some more positivity in this video. Ricky Holmes. Oh, this guy scored so many long-range goals for us. It was absolutely unbelievable. Check out my goal compilation on him to see what I'm on about. His goals, honestly, were just incredible, and when he played for this football club, he really was something special. Sam Field. Now, I think he was alright. He was ravaged with injuries quite badly during that season. He was alright. He put in some decent performances, had a good left foot on him. He was he was decent. And hear me out. Not being used at West Brom currently, 22 years of age. Would you take him back at Charlton now? Because I ain't being funny, I would. I'd happily take Field back. Next up, we have another Arsenal loanee, and at the time we signed him was one of the most exciting League One players, Steffy Mavadidi. He was fantastic when he came to us, and of course he had two different spells at the club. He come over during the 2016-17 season on loan from Arsenal, received quite a bad injury, was sent back to the Gunners to undergo treatment, came back to us in January 2017-18, and he started to bag goals. He had a lot of energy, a lot of pace. He was getting forward well, scored some goals, really was creating. As I felt he was a good signing for us, even though we didn't have him for very long. The mere mention of this player's name just infuriates me. Sulay Kaikai, absolute shitter. Terrible player, going in the bottom category. Tariq Fosu. Now, this one's a weird one. The first season we had him, he was what a steal. Second season, he was an absolute clanger. So I'm either going to go in one of the middle categories. I've put him in the done alright category purely because of how good he was in the first season. He gave himself quite a bad reputation with quite a bad attitude, and of course, if you've got a bad attitude, you've got no place in Lee Bowyer's squad. I think his first season was good enough to put him in the done alright category, but it's just a shame the way that he left. Tom Lockyer, good signing for us, I think. His first strike year was quite small for a centre-back, but at the start of last season, he really was good. Lockyer was a good player, and of course, as we know, he activated a relegation clause in his contract, which still bewilders me. To wrap up this video, the final player in this tier list, and here we are ending on quite a bad note, to be totally honest with you. We have another player entering the absolute clanger category, and I think you probably know who it is. Mohammad. He probably is the worst striker we've seen at this football club, to be totally honest with you. And he was so hyped, and he had such a good record at this level at Brighton and at QPR the season before, and it just did not work out for him at this club. It just did not work out for him. He really just wasn't good enough, and I did feel sorry for him because you could see that he was desperate for a goal and he just didn't get it. It just would not come. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, can you possibly leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, turn on those post notifications so you're notified of when I post. What do you guys think of my tier list? Let me know in the comments below. I hope all you guys have a very Merry Christmas. It's going to be very different to this year, and to be honest, quite rubbish, to be honest with you, with all of us in tier 4 down down in the southeast. It's going to be a bit of a downer, but we've got to make the most of it, man. We've got to stay safe. Merry Christmas to all Charlton fans and to all football fans out there that are watching this channel. This has been Tyler Rennickson. Have a nice day, and I will see you all in the next video. Take it easy. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all later.